My name is Jeff Wills. I am your current Boise Region Realtor President this year. There's a mic in my hand, but it's actually just for the audio for the recording, so don't feel like there's like, hey, why can't we hear him on a mic? It's for the audio portion. For those of you that don't know anything about myself, I was born and raised in Kuna, and having been a small local community like Emmett, I actually love Emmett a lot. There's a lot of ties I have to Emmett, and so anytime I have an opportunity to come out here, it makes me happy to come down and see the high school, the domes. I always love seeing the domes coming down into the valley. If you're here, you have to eat at Rowan's, obviously. That's a must. Learned how to actually wakeboard at Black Canyon, and I don't know if it was fortunately or unfortunately. It was unfortunately for my wallet, but I actually dated a girl in high school, clear out here in Emmett. I'm not sure why from Kuna I decided that was a good decision, but wasted a lot of gas, but we had a lot of fun back then. And so I really appreciate Emmett. There's a lot of really good memories. And of course, I'm sure the first chair I ever picked was probably out here as well, growing up with my family. So it's just nice to be in Emmett. It's good to be here talking with you guys today about all things housing in Jim County. We're going to get right into it today. First, we'd like to thank our sponsors today for our core class for this afternoon. Our sponsor will be Gifts with an Edge by Cutco. So thank you, Cutco, for that. And also a big thank you to all of our other annual sponsors. We appreciate your contributions as your valued partners and allow us to put on these type of awesome summits for you guys. The purpose of the annual event is to look at the real estate trends in Jim County and to share information about the public policy issues and advocacy efforts at the local and state level. For those who are unfamiliar with the advocacy issues, the Realtor Associations for BRRs constantly fighting on your behalf. There was a pamphlet that was handed out at the door today, so please take a look at that if you weren't able to grab that. These things that impact our communities, our businesses, and even the environment in which we live and work in each and every day. And we don't just work in these issues for you, but on your behalf for all those who are wanting to buy and sell real estate. I think it's one of my favorite things about the Realtor Party is that it's probably one of the most selfless PACs in our country, in the sense that, of course, we're looking to protect our own interests around being able to be practitioners in real estate, but we're truly looking out and fighting for and putting our money behind anything that would impact anything with housing issues, with private property rights, and so but it really protects our consumers as well. So love all things that we're able to do in the Realtor Party. If you have any questions about the policies or any of the legislative topics that we're supporting or backing that are going to be discussed today, Cameron Kinzer's in the back. Cameron, can everyone wave? Yes, we love Cameron. He's our Director of Government Affairs. He's an amazing resource for you guys to reach out to. Since 2017, when Jim County joined BRR, Cameron has been working to create connections with local elected officials, staff, and industry partners, and we'll be hearing from two of them in just a bit, Jim County Associate Planner Michelle Barron and Road and Bridge Director Neal Capps. Thank you both for being here today with us. Unfortunately, Jennifer Carr, who was on the agenda, was unable to speak today, so if you're only coming here, Jennifer, speak, I'm sorry. But the agenda will still be amazing today, so we're looking forward to that piece. I also want to thank Tina Turner and John Evans. Where are they at? They're right here. Thank you both for your help with the Realtor Outreach Committee, the Realtors Community Foundation Board, and the BRR Board of Directors. They have made sure association staff and leadership is fully aware of the policy and legislative issues happening in Jim County to ensure we offer valuable member services and timely advocacy support. So you have two rock stars among you that are fully engaged with so many things happening within BRR, but it takes all of you as well. So I want to say thank you for you guys being here today. At the end of the day, our association, like I said, we were just in Elmore County a couple days ago, and we'll be doing our Ada County Summit on Friday. So we have a big geographic area, and those markets are way different, like significantly different, with different type of problems and things going on. So we really need practitioners like you guys having great conversations, attending events like this, giving input, having conversations with those board members that kind of are in your region, and making sure that as the board of directors and as Breanna as our CEO, we know what's going on so that we can be doing all we can with our resources to support what's happening here in Jim County. If you'd like to be more involved in these, I'd invite you to join the BRR's Jim County Advisory Board, which is led by Tina Turner, and done in partnership with REBA. We'll kick off in the next few weeks, coordinating network events, community service opportunities, and CE courses that you'd like to have provided by BRR. Beyond the great things that we're already doing through REBA, we also look to this group for efforts and insights on the local housing market and political issues. And also to that work and that many member benefits provided by BRR that we know are key to our partnership a few years ago. We've been working to identify more ways to make meaningful contributions to Jim County through the associations and to reinforce the values as realtors in this specific community. Since our merger, the BRR's Community Foundation has given nearly $7,000 in grants to Jim County nonprofits, and I encourage you all to take advantage of our match program through our foundation. How many people are familiar or know the fact that we have the ability to match your contributions to nonprofits through our foundation? Does everyone know that? If not, I have good news for you. You're probably giving, realtors are very giving, probably to a fault sometimes. But it's one thing I love about our industry is just like how much we care and give. Just know there are some pretty awesome resources with our foundation. So if you're already giving money on an annual basis to a nonprofit that you care about, we are happy to match that up to $100. You just have to submit essentially an application with the foundation. And right back there. Maroon has a copy right back there that you can grab on the way out. And we'd love to match that for the nonprofits you're already supporting here in Jim County. We had a really cool announcement that we announced on Monday, and you may not have heard about it because I know you probably were out showing houses and doing something with your clients and saving a deal, right? But we're super excited about this next announcement regarding housing affordability initiative that we announced on Monday. And that is that BRR has partnered with LEAP Charities, a local nonprofit created by a realtor himself, focused on developing safe, beautiful, designed housing that is affordable to purchase. To help fund this new housing each year for at least the next 5 years, BRR will invest $50,000 annually into the LEAP Housing Trust to remove the cost of the land from the final purchase price of the property, making homeownership possible for more people. I think housing affordability is something we hear a lot about right now in our rising market, and it's something that, as an association, we're very aware of, and I can't say thank you enough to everything that came to making this a reality, because as an association, not only do we want to have good verbiage around housing affordability, but we really want to put our money where our mouth is at in regards to helping provide people in our communities opportunities at affordable housing. This will be funded by a grant from BRR with support from IMLS, and as well as proceeds from the annual Circle of Excellence Production Awards, which many of you have already participated in, so thank you for that. LEAP has built projects in Ada County and Canyon County, with their next one planned for Elmore County, but they also have planned stages for Jim County as well here in the near future. To share details on this partnership and the future plans for the community, I'd like to welcome Lori Benfiet. Yes. Did I say it right? Boom. She's the LEAP's housing director to tell us more about everything that they're kind of projecting. So help me welcome to the stage, Lori. Thank you so much. And then, like I said, you won't be able to hear yourself, but that's an audio
Just talk
recording.
into it, okay? And make sure this works. Sideways or? Perfect. Well, thanks for having me here. I apologize, our executive director, Bart Cochran, who started this organization, wasn't able to be here today, so I'm filling in for him. I've only been with LEAP for about 3 months, and the reason that I was with them is because of what they do. They are in the communities creating affordable housing where other places will not. We get a lot of people calling us saying, hey, we have this land or we have this building, and other developers have told them, oh no, it won't work. LEAP doesn't do that. We take the time to look at it and make sure that we've exhausted every possibility to try to make affordable housing out of whatever we're offered. This grant that we're receiving is huge. It's a big piece of what we're able to do because it helps us in 3 different areas to continue to create that affordable housing. The comment was made originally that we do home ownership. We started with the home ownership option. We've moved into rental because that's a big issue now, as we all know, as rents are continuing to climb drastically. in a lot of our areas. I'm not familiar how bad it has gotten here, but Ada County, it's ridiculous. We're hearing people, their rents are going up $200 to $500 a month when they're getting their leases renewed. So as realtors, you know there's a huge need for housing, home ownership, and rental. The projects that we're working on right now, we do have one in each of the counties. The Taft Street is a unique process that no one else has done. It's new to the area. We have a church that's donating their land. They're leasing the land to us so we can build homes on it to serve people at 30% of the area median income. That's considered extremely low income for any area, but especially in the Ada County area. We'll be building stick-built homes on that and renting to these people in partnership with the campaign to end homelessness. We'll be working with Catch, who supports the homeowners or renters with services and helps them maintain that house, which is a big piece of it. They learn how to do budgeting, they learn to make those payments on time, and the hope is that they're able to move up income-wise and move into something bigger and better and create those assets that all of us look forward to. The second project that is in the funding stage, we're just now seeking applications for tax credits and some other funding sources, is in Elmore County. It's Falcons Landing. It's a community that we're developing. We're looking at 108 units of rental housing that range from 1 to 3 bedroom units, as well as we're also going to do a self-help project that will be, the homeowners will be building their own homes. It's similar to a Habitat. If you're familiar with the Habitat process, it's kind of that same along the lines where they have to contribute so many hours of sweat equity into all the homes before they're able to take on to their home. And finally, we're looking at a site here in Emmett. It's in downtown Emmett, and we're really excited about that. It's just in those initial stages, so I can't give too much away. But we're looking at doing rental units there as well and designing it so it fits into the scheme of the downtown and not standing out. One of the big things with LEAP is, you can see this rendering on the bottom, that's our elevation for our mountain home project. It does not look like low-income housing. So we try to create housing that anyone would want to live in, no matter what your income is, and that it is an asset to the community that we're developing in. This is the layout that we're looking at in Mountain Home. You can see that there's one access coming into it. We have community space. We have the single family dispersed throughout the area. We have sport courts. We have tot lots. We have a community building where we'll have computer systems and rooms for meeting, and it's just all centered there so people can enjoy the community. In addition, we're working with St. Luke's as far as healthy communities, and they're realizing that having a home is a big piece of your health. And so they're working with us as well. So we're creating things like bike racks and bike paths and hooking up to walking paths. There's garden areas. We're going to help teach people how to grow food and what you do with it once it's grown. I know me, I never knew what to do with the vegetables once they were grown. So it's like, if it's not a cucumber or lettuce, I don't know what to do with it. So it will be a fun project, but like I said, this is just in the initial stages of getting the funding, and we're looking at the overall funding just so you can get an idea of how much this donation helps us. Just one of the multifamily projects, we're looking at $14 million. So there's quite a bit of money involved, and that's not with the land. We've taken the land out of that process. So there's a lot of funding sources, but the more people give, the more community supports us, the easier it is for us. As you can see, we have several community partners we work with, and this is just a few of them. We have so many people that support us. Even if it's just donating $20, that helps, you know, a family. Every little bit helps us create the housing that we're looking for, but you can see there's a lot of players involved in the process. And finally, how you can get involved. There's several ways, and we can go into more detail if any of you want to talk with me, or you can always contact LEAP directly. But advocacy is a huge piece of it. I'm sure most of you have heard NIMBY, and when we're going into an area and we're having to redesign something, it's always not my backyard. We don't want those people here. So the support of writing a letter or going to city council meetings or whatever we're doing in that process is always helpful. Volunteers, of course. As the projects expand, we always have opportunities for volunteering. If you love to do landscape, we got a few of those projects. You can come and help with that. When we get into the sweat equity, there's always an opportunity to help you know, with the building of that, if you like doing that, there's always something that we could use you for. Identifying land opportunities. Your realtors, you know where everything is and what's out there and what's for sale and who may be thinking of selling but's not ready to. There's also people out there that want to do something good for the community. They believe in affordable housing. They'll donate their land or they'll donate their house as long as it remains affordable. Any of those items truly help us. And you may not think it would work. Always give us a call. We're always willing to look at anything. So you never know what you can make of something. And then just, you know, just giving back. There's always opportunity to donate. As it was said, realtors are one of the best agencies that help out and donate money. So any way you can help, we'd appreciate that. And our contact information, and if you have any other questions, I'll be around here for a while, but appreciate the time. And again, thanks for the donation.
Thank you so much, Lori, again, for taking the time to be here today. And just thank you for the partnership. We're really looking forward to doing some amazing things alongside you guys. Moving right along in our program, as mentioned, 2 other people we have here today working also hard for your community and are excited to speak with you. And we're excited that you guys took the time out of your busy days to be here, is Michelle and Neal. So I'll give you guys, I don't know if you're going to come, you know, kill it together or one at a time, but whichever one works.
Hello, I just found out just this morning that I was speaking. So I'm working off of somebody else's notes, so that's why I have notes. Otherwise, I'd probably be okay. The top of Jennifer's notes actually says, we know that you invited the commissioners, but instead you get the A team. But I'm going to say A and B, but either way, we do work as a team. So just wanted to update a little bit. Real important news that came out. You guys may not be as thrilled as a lot of the community members, but the impact fee ordinance did pass on the 19th of July. It's something that has been needed so that this guy can do his work, so that we have the infrastructure that we can support all of the growth that is happening in Jim County. So we do have impact fees. It's going to be around $10,000 per house. It's going to become in effect August 19th. So coming right up, it's a 30-day process. There is some subdivisions that are already grandfathered in that have CIP fees on it. They will not be, that's all for roads though. So they're still going to be subject to there's a sheriff fee and a Jim County Fire District 1 and a Middleton Fire. So I do have those numbers I can give you guys later if you want, or you can always email me. Just something to be aware of to get in on that 30-day thing. If somebody's working on building, we have to have a complete application. We have a checklist in our office. We've been incredibly busy the last couple of days because a lot of people have heard about it and they're panicking. They're like, how can I get in before this happens? So you do have to have a completed application, and that includes septic permit, which has kind of been a hang up in our county recently. So, but give us a call. We can give you some tips on how to work your way through that. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, go through your stuff.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So recently, the Joint Planning Commission has disbanded. So the city and the county used to work together for our comprehensive plan. That has been taken apart. So city's going to do their thing, county's going to do their own. Currently, the Board of County Commissioners is the head of that. They're overseeing that in lieu of, we had a zoning commission and a planning commission. They were separate. The joint planning commission, we had some city members and some county members, and since they've disbanded that, we're looking at putting the planning and zoning commission as one. So, gonna put a bug in your guys' ear. If anybody has anybody that is interested in joining that commission, we are down to 3 members right now on our zoning commission. It's gonna become our planning and zoning. That's a real hindrance to just have those 3 members. It's always good to have more voices and to have more input, and we are going to be looking at, the county commissioners recently hired Logan Simpson, which is a consulting firm. They're going to be rewriting our comp plan, and we're going to need some help. We're going to need some people for our steering committee, so keep an ear open for the call for help, and I'd appreciate any of you guys that want to participate in that. All right. Sorry. Let me take a breath. I talk faster when I'm nervous. We're also doing several revisions to the Gem County Code to ordinances. And then whenever the comp plan comes around, I'm sure there's going to be some changes there too. We're doing some cleanups, just trying to get things working more smoothly. We're all busy. You guys are busy, so we're busy. So you can imagine that the boom in the housing area and the real estate has really caused an influx of subdivisions for us for building permits. Our building permit review process has slowed down significantly because we're just overwhelmed. There's been 119 building permits for single-family residences issued since last July. We probably have 50-plus building permit applications in our office right now, somewhere in the process of being reviewed. We have hired on a contract person to help out with that, so that's great, but we only have 1 inspector. So it's a busy place. We are hopping. We only have 6 people in our office. 2 are part-time. So we're crazy busy. If we don't answer the phones, please leave a message, shoot us an email. We will get back to you. It just may not be immediately. We are constantly busy. Another big news is that we finally have new floodplain maps. The FEMA maps are going to go live and be effective on August 24th of this year. We haven't had new FEMA maps since 1978. So, that being said, there are some really big changes. There's approximately 300 parcels in our county that are in the floodplain. It could be a portion of their property or it could be the entirety of. You would be shocked by some of the changes. So if you have any questions, let us know. Jennifer is our floodplain administrator. She can answer all your questions. Most of us in the office can also answer the questions. We have an interactive website that you can go to and see what the old maps look like versus the new ones on a property, and we were surprised by some. There are some that aren't even near the river. They're not right along the slough. That are fully in the floodplain. It was kind of shocking to find out how many were affected. So just give us a call and we can help you work through that. Are you ready? Okay, so we are working on increasing the building permit fees. We're approximately 20 years behind. They haven't been updated in a while, so those should be going up, again, to cover expenses, and we had to hire another person in our office, and so those kind of things all balance out. Currently, I have 25 minor subdivisions somewhere in the process here in the county, minor subdivisions, and 4 standard subdivisions, so those are larger subdivisions. We don't see anything like Emmett has, though. Although we have been blamed several times for the new subdivision that just went in. Well, why did you allow that? And I said, well, go talk to the city. So, all right, I think that's it.
That's all you got. So again, my name is Neal Capps, Gem County Road and Bridge Director. We follow suit with planning and zoning quite well with the fluid that they have and some of their comp plan and some of their amendments. Infrastructure is always the needs for our county. And with our county being as small as it is, we just don't see that influx coming quite rapidly until this last couple of years. So along with planning and zoning, we're revamping our infrastructure needs. Transportation plan will be coming out next year. New standards will be coming out next year just to kind of revamp that 13-year-old system that we have right now in place. As part of her subdivisions that we see, John's been a part of that. Tom, you guys built some of those in our facilities. And that infrastructure needs, our roads aren't built to standard, and we're not Ada County. We don't have the funding, and that's where that shortfall's coming from. Approximately anywhere from $1 million to about $1.5 million that we're short in the Gem County for infrastructure needs. And so the new impact fee will cover majority of that, hopefully, in the needs in our CIP futures. A lot of roadway. If your analogy to look at it, Jim County goes all the way to the southern tip of Cascade Lake. So from here to there, we have about 640 miles of roadway that we maintain with a staff of 14. So that takes a lot of time and a lot of due diligence, and our growth is where it is today. Part of our infrastructure needs that we have is everybody understands that fuel's going up. Our revenues are staying about the same. Plastic, everything that I touch on a day-to-day basis has gone up about 50% to 100. So trying to fill our gap is that much harder, and that's why the impact fees came into light. And hopefully we can make some adjustments, and hopefully it'll work out in the future for everybody. A lot of the other things that are going on is our new infrastructure bill, maybe that's coming down the process. We'll see some of that as far as wastewater management in Jim County. That's something that we're starting to get at the thresholds of the population. We're underneath the NEPA, the EPA guidelines. We're going to start seeing some changes in there and how our discharge of water from some of these projects that Michelle's seen and some of the new subdivisions are coming into the county is how we do with discharge water from home. Any other questions or comments? Or we've pretty much covered a lot in about 20 minutes. Just kind of recap that you probably see a lot of growth in our county. I know John, some of the realtors have been in touch with us and seen what we've got. So.
I do want to say real quick that I appreciate all of you that come in before you list a property if you have some questions. One of my least favorite things to do is to drive around the county and see, and it's not you local guys, see real estate signs that say development potential, and I'm like, maybe you should check with your county authority first, because then I have to take those calls, and people say, well, it says on the listing that I can develop this in 1 acre parcels. I'm like, well, best of luck to you. So please continue to do your research. Again, we're really super busy, but we're always going to answer you. Emails to any of us, phone calls, leave us a voicemail. We'll get back to you, I promise. If we don't, call back. Thank you.
Michelle, Neal, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Again, for taking the time. And sorry that we tried to sell our properties. I can tell you that it's not county specific. I'm calling a quick audible. You see Breanna's eyes get all big. Wait, what's he doing? We're a little bit ahead of schedule. My big thing this year is just connecting with our members a little bit more. And again, like I said, we're not always here in your backyard able to talk with you guys. I know you guys all took time out of your businesses to be here. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you for that. But I also just wanted to, while we kind of have you in the room, and we have our CEO in the room, myself, obviously John and Tina are here as well, and some awesome staff people. Is there anything else that you guys see on the horizon with Jim County that would need to be brought to our attention right now? That I'm not saying that we're going to solve any problems here today. I'm not even saying that what you tell me, I'm not going to look at you like a deer in the headlights being like, what are they talking about out here? But I think it's important that while we're all in the room, if there's anything that brought you to be sitting here today, that you have an opportunity to say, hey, this is coming down the pipeline, and I want to make sure our association's aware of it. And we have a mic over here. Is there anything? Yeah.
The whole affordable housing becomes such an issue.
We're going to be talking that mic right there, only so the recording can pick you up.
But what's
It's just
gotcha.
recording.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what is there anything being done as far as the association to say, hey, look, let's look at this affordable housing situation. What can we do in these counties? I mean, I know it's in every county, not just in Jim County, but just for instance, the size of the land required, minimum size lots. What's being done to maybe do some reduction on that, just to make the overall cost less expensive so people can get into housing?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one big thing we're doing with LEAP a little bit as well. So with the LEAP program, that $50,000 we're going to be donating for the next 5 years, that money is essentially going into allow, so like say you have your overall purchase price of a home. Let's say it's $300,000. Obviously, there's a land element that you were talking about. That's a cost portion to that for any developer. With LEAP for the next 5 years, BRR, so your association dollars are going to be going towards helping LEAP do these projects where the land portion will be taken off the top for the potential buyer. So that's one way we're contributing. There's all kinds of different ways we're looking to contribute to support infill projects in every single community, to support. That goes all the way to legislative matters and who we're putting into office, who we're backing in regards to how the projections with infrastructure look. But I would say the one big thing we're doing in the short term is that piece, putting $50,000 annually into that project to help people have more opportunity to affordable housing by removing the land element from the overall purchase price. Yeah.
That's a great example of it. The other thing that's kind of on our charitable side. The other thing we're working on, and it was kind of nice to hear what Gem County has planned with their comp plans and rezoning and looking at that. That's an area that we would get involved with. Cameron would be kind of leading that and kind of helping to provide some of that input based on what we're getting from National Association of Realtors, input from all of you. And I'll just as an example, the city of Boise is going through that right now for the exact same reason that you talked about, is can we get some smaller density projects, some of the codes that allow for a little bit more of that to have these smaller scale projects. So Cameron's done a great job with our public policy committee providing some comments and feedback on, yes, that's the right direction and some of those things. So absolutely, as that starts happening here locally, that's another thing our public policy committee would be involved in. And we can certainly work with the Gem County Advisory Board and REBA to provide some of that additional commentary for that, because that's what they need to hear. And just like they had mentioned when they, that LEAP's shared and what Michelle and Neal had said is they need to hear from the real estate community specifically on what are you guys seeing and what do you need? Because there's a big misperception that all we want is these big massive subdivisions and homes and all of this stuff, right? But when they hear from you all directly saying, no, we support these changes, that's really, really powerful. So that's just in addition to some of that charitable stuff on that public policy side, that's where we would step in with something like that. So hopefully, does that answer a little bit of your question? Great.
Thank you so much for your question. Any other questions or anything that this Boise guy should know about Jim County? Because I'm honest, like I'm not a practitioner out here, unless I have to be. I get a call like, but not that CUNA where I grew up at is any different. But John, go ahead.
Jeff, I know we had problems on septic systems. We had a new inspector, and I think everyone's aware of that. And I don't know where we're at on that now. I don't know if we still have to monitor. Do we for the whole year still? So, and that's on the flats, and I think that's probably a bigger concern, not just because of us. There's a lot of people that purchased property that wasn't aware of it, and now they're getting burned that they can't do anything for a year. And I think that's probably more support on that one, because it doesn't just hit the realtors, it hits the buyers and the builders too. So,
yeah, Cameron's making notes back there. So
there's a test later too.
When you say that, John, when you say the flats, do you mean, is that a specific area in the valley? Is that like something south of the
down
river?
on the flats, down
South
on the riverside, yeah,
Okay.
anywhere.
They're just on the floor. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it specifically for a year, or is it specifically through irrigation season? So
It's
done when you buy.
So there's actually 2 seasons. One starts February, goes to, I think, into March. That's season 1, which is runoff. And then there is from that period until the end of the season, which I think is October 31st. Because they had a huge discussion about it at the impact hearing, because they're trying to figure out if they can do some kind of resolution that the people that are ready to apply for a building permit but are in the process of monitoring, they said, okay, we'll just get them through the end of November and they'll disappear. And he said, no, because there's 2 seasons. If you missed your February, March runoff season, you are carry over till the following year. So yeah, we've never had monitoring. We did have a really tough situation happen. We do have new people within the health department now. The county commissioners are aware and watching, but there is a lot of frustration because we've never had that situation before. It's weekly monitoring on almost the entire valley floor. I was up on the bench and almost got thrown into monitoring, so it's all over our county, and yeah.
And another one, got
Yeah.
the mic.
You
I'm
got the
going to
mic.
use it.
Yeah, you got the power.
The Highway 16 extension, I don't know where that's at. I know that we've kind of stalled on the from the governor and that part, but I know they're in the process of doing. I don't know if you know, Breanna, where it's at.
To extending it south of state, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Or of,
go to I-84 to the end of
yeah.
it. So.
Cameron, do you have any updates on where that stands right now?
I'm not sure on exact timing of that, but I think a big piece was the funding mechanism that came through last week's city session for that 80 million, but then also that bonding capacity. I think that's going to speed up the process, but I don't know the exact timing. I know it's still in my plan.
And doesn't our Alquist have the property on the other side? Isn't he trying to develop that part too?
That I do not know.
There's a
Do you
test.
know about that property?
I don't know a lot about individual development parcels, but that's a big.
Cool.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, that'll make a big difference just in our valley. Any additional connection, just, I mean, if anyone's familiar with the 10-mile intersection, I mean, that went from like a bunch of farmland to boom, just blew up. So that will be a very interesting development as it moves forward, not just for how it impacts connecting you guys to our valley, but just right in the heart of, right there at the Canyon County, Ada County border. It'll be very interesting how that moves forward. So thank you. Any other things that we ought to be, oh, one more. No.
Hey, I like the mic. Everyone knows that. And I think another concern is capacity for sewer, because I had a developer looking and they said, oh gosh, if you can't lock it down. And I think that's something that we need to look on Cameron for Emmett, because we have a 250-acre lot coming in, being built now, and they said any development coming in could be hurt. So that would almost be worse, like a moratorium.
Yeah, that is a bad word. Anything else from anyone? Speak now, or forever hold your peace. I'm just kidding. No, I just kind of want to point out too, I mean, I'm just sitting here listening to Tina kind of like rattle off almost like the minutes from these different meetings. And that's what I absolutely love about realtors. I think there's so much, especially in a smaller community like Emmett, although growing, no doubt, and in Jim County, is that we are literally on the floor. We're on, you have your pulse on exactly what's going on. Like I said, I'm asking you these questions as your president, because it's important that you guys understand that as an association, we have these tools and this financial backing to help out where we can, but we don't know what the problems are unless we're engaging with you. But I love hearing that, because I think so many times the perception of realtors, like, oh, they're just out there just, turning property, making commissions. Well, like, yeah, that's how we make our living. But it doesn't come without the engagement at the level of all of you for taking the time to be here, to be engaged with the actual infrastructure, the forward thinking, and like where are we going in this little part of the state that we love so much. So again, thank you guys so much for engaging. And now my audible's over and Breanna can breathe again, because she probably was like, what's he doing with the mic up there? Because they keep me pretty well scripted, so I don't get off pace. So right back to my awesome script here. To actually introduce Breanna. So, where's that at? I think I got ahead of myself here. So, yeah, so for those who aren't familiar with Breanna, she is our current CEO of Boise Regional Realtors. She's going to be coming up to do the 2021 mid-year residential real estate update for Jim County. If you don't know a lot about her, she's been in the industry for 20 years, and she's been in marketing, association management, and in real estate herself. She's done event promotions and advertising work for the national brands like Rubbermaid, NASCAR, Disney on Ice, Buffalo Wild Wings as well. And she's also been, like I mentioned, a realtor, and has worked in communications with associations in West Palm Beach, Florida, in St. Paul, Minnesota, where she is from originally, Minnesota. And since 2015, we've had the privilege of having her here with us as the Chief Executive Officer of Boise Regional Realtors. I'm going to turn the mic over to her now for her summit update for you guys.
Well, thank you guys so much, as always. So enjoy getting to talk about market stats and all this stuff that we're seeing going on. And really, I have a ton of information in here, as I normally do, but these slides will be on the website for you guys. And there's actually a couple of resources that I'm just not going to have time to dig into. So you'll have like sheets with data, numbers, and all that kind of stuff you can look into. But really, our goal in doing this at least once a year is to go a little bit deeper on some of the trends that we're seeing. And thank you guys for those of you who reached out and shared some of the ideas that you'd like to see in this as well. Because really, the purpose of this and why we want to put this together is so that you have tools to help the conversations with your buyers and sellers, right? Like that's what we want to make sure is we're equipping you to be that resource and provide that context, because sometimes we just see the single sales price and this number, but we want to give you those resources to have that explanation that can go along with things. And really what I've shared in the past couple years that we've done this, it hasn't totally changed, but we just continue to see that insufficient supply of demand, or insufficient supply of homes compared to demand, and that's just really pushing home prices up, across Idaho, across the country really, but absolutely here as well. One of the things that's really interesting about Gem County, though, and you guys all are well aware of this, is also the lot sizes here are much, much larger than we see in other areas. And so that also contributes to those rising prices as we see more people looking for that type of product that they can't find in other parts of really Southwest Idaho. And obviously, low mortgage rates have allowed people to purchase more than maybe they would have previously. But we're just seeing so many people sort of rethink how and where they live and work. And again, we're all very familiar with the expansion that's created in Idaho in general, but a lot of times some of the smaller areas that were originally considered more vacation, second home, because people can just work remotely now more than they ever had before. And it's really not that same thing that we saw back in 6, 7, and 8, when we had a lot of risky lending and credit standards and just things that were going on that made it very different, plus an overabundance of inventory, right? And I share that with you guys because you know this, but that's the question we keep getting asked at the association from a lot of reporters, especially when they saw at least Ada County's home price go over $500,000 in May, is just like, well, we're obviously back in where we were in 2008. And I'm not going to say it's different this time, but it's different for some different reasons. And so just want to give you some of those talking points. But you may also have been hearing how construction across the country is, behind. Like we've been underbuilding for a decade. So you've probably heard that. There's been some numbers thrown around by different economists, the National Association of Realtors. And I wanted to just get a sense of a little bit more historically, like how did we get to this point where we're in such a tight crunch, not just locally, but really nationwide. And if you look back, this goes back to 1968. I'm going to pull up two of the peak points. But in 2006 is when we had the peak construction or housing completions for housing units in sort of that last upcycle. And housing units in this case are single family homes, apartments, multifamily, condo, townhomes. It's not just single family, but just to get a sense of what was actually built. But actually in 1973, we brought on more new homes at that time. And really, if you look at what I think was driving both of those, and certainly they're super complex and there's lots of things behind it, but really the two things behind both of them is demographics and federal housing policy. So in both times, changes happened in federal housing policy, also in expanding credit and changing lending standards that allowed more people to get into home ownership, which drove demand. But it was also at the same time that in the 70s, the baby boomers were sort of aging into those typical first-time home buyer years, a couple years into that. But same with in 2006, the millennials had started aging into home ownership around 2099, 2000, 2001. So when we have these huge groups of people sort of moving through those traditional times when they would buy a home, on top of some federal changes that had been made to allow more people to get into homes, it just creates this huge level of demand. But what I think is interesting too, when you sort of look at this kind of going back historically, the red dotted line just shows the annual historical average over that time frame. It's not necessarily what needed to be built or what should have been built, that's just the annual average. And when you look at sort of the peak above, I think it's like 97, or I think I had it on there, but between the end of the 90s and through 2008, I'll say overbuilt. We built 2.8 million more units than we would have had we just built at that historical average. But under that, kind of coming out of the recession, it was 5.5 million under that line. And so even though that kind of drop off in construction was probably really needed to absorb some of that oversupply we had, you guys all are well aware, right? We had so many builders, construction companies go out of business and just not being able to ramp back up at a time when You know, we have tons of people coming into the market more than ever before. So that's really what's kind of created this imbalance. And when we even look at more of a state level, Freddie Mac did some research and found that majority of the states are now facing housing deficits. And it's just, again, all of these factors I just talked about. But what we can see is the states that are in the dark blue, they're putting all of this pressure on adjacent states. We're obviously having that effect here in the Mountain West from Oregon and California, even Texas and Colorado, but also along the East Coast. And again, with more people being able to move wherever, more than ever before, that's even exacerbating that, right? So we're seeing that as well of just different, even state level housing policies and how that's sort of driving up some of this demand. But what's interesting, though, is if we sort of take a look at this, because not every individual person has an individual home or a housing unit, right? We usually live in households and whatnot. So what was really interesting to take a look at is the change in household formation kind of during the last decade, and then the change in housing units also during that time, to just see, again, why, just another element of why there's that imbalance between supply and demand. Interestingly, in Gem County, we saw a little bit of a reverse that we've been seeing in Ada and Elmore and Canyon counties, which is good. But I think in part what's driving that is, again, that sort of larger lot size and the larger properties, right? Because you just can't bring on as many projects here as you can in some other areas. And I think this was really interesting when we looked at the average acreage for existing homes that sold by the different counties. Again, as I mentioned before, if somebody wants acreage, they've kind of got to come here, right? If they still sort of want to be nearby Boise, kind of the metro area, and still have a city like Emmett to have some of those services versus kind of going a little bit even further out. Boise County is a little bit higher in terms of average acreage, but even you jump down to Payette, Washington, we're still on average about, an acre and a half for that. So that's really what's going to drive a lot of the demand here. Again, you guys, I'm seeing shaking heads like, yep, that's what people, I need land, I want to buy land, right? And also people kind of moving from other markets saying, I want a big piece of property and my house in the middle and all that kind of stuff. But this in our valley, in our metro area, this is where they're finding it, right? So that has a big difference on that. And small chart here, like I said, I'll send this to you so you can take a look at it. But it's just to show you that there's a lot of factors, again, going into this. I mean, I've talked on a kind of high level around population, federal housing policy, but there's just so many different factors that are really creating this imbalance, especially in our existing home market. But one thing I think that's been interesting for us more recently, it's kind of the third bullet point down here, is it's just easier than ever to get to our market, right? Like, you can't just drive to Boise, you can't just drive to Emmett, versus like Portland or something like that. So with all the flights that have been added, just people kind of being able to get here a little bit more, it's making it more of a viable option for people, especially those that want to work from home, have a second home, and do some of that we didn't kind of have before. So I think that's pretty interesting. And also I do think there's just this fear of missing out on, in Boise and Idaho and all of those kind of things right now. So we are seeing a little bit of that as well. And I've certainly talked to some of our members who are feeling that. But the way that we then quantify, right, those kind of all of those different qualitative factors and put it into a number that you all can look at on a monthly basis as our month supply of inventory number. And we're always looking for that to be between 4 to 6 months to find a level of balance. And again, we're all familiar, we have not been in a balanced market in quite a while. At the end of June, Gem County was at 1.7 months of supply. That's ticking up a little bit, which is really nice to see, but still well kind of under that balanced level that we have. So this is one of the indicators we watch every month to see if that's sort of coming back into balance or not. So hopefully this is a helpful chart for you. And again, you can really see this huge peak that we had previously, that is in like 2009 and 10. So when people say, oh, are we back to the same kind of market? Absolutely not. That just shows how much supply we had previously here in the county versus what people were actually buying and picking up as we sort of moved through that versus where we're at today. So that's a really interesting one to kind of keep an eye on. Also, looking at average market times. So days on market is another one I know a lot of you are taking a look at. We've been watching it and commenting on it on a monthly basis for quite a while because it's just getting faster and faster and faster, that time between when a home goes active and when an offer is accepted and goes into pending status. Interestingly, what has not really changed is that pending to close time frame, right? And so I just want to make 2 comments on this slide. With the way that, we kind of hear things in the media right now about like, just throw my house on the market, it'll sell immediately, no big deal, right? So many people have that impression of the left side, the lighter part of the chart. That's what it is to sell a house, right? Where we know it's all of that stuff after we get under contract, right? It's both sides of it. And how are you talking to clients ahead of that purchase process so they expect, or they understand what to expect as they go through? They're prepared to make those big decisions. You're kind of counseling them on things that we're going to run into as we go through, because this is not changing. It's still about, I think, 38 days on average from pending to close to get that property sold. But interestingly, we are now under 30 days here in Gem County for our days on market, and that's kind of a year-to-date number. But one thing I want to be really clear on, and you guys kind of know this, but we get questions from time to time from members of this idea, right, there's no inventory, there's just nothing to sell. Well, that's not true. There's homes selling, there's lots to sell, but in our market reports, we continue to show low inventory, right? Well, think about how we do our market statistics. Closed sales are a cumulative number every month, right? Where inventory is a snapshot on one day, and it's usually towards the end of the month. So just using this 18 days, for example, if you had listed a home on June 1st and it went under contract June 18th, it's never gonna show up as inventory in our reports, but it'll show up as a pending sale. So there's inventory out there, it's just moving incredibly fast. So if that also helps as a talking point to tell potential buyers and prospective sellers that are like, I'm not listing my home, there's nothing for sale, I can't see anything, right? There's home selling, again, they're just selling very, very quickly. So just keep that in mind when you see those numbers from time to time. Another thing we're also watching, just to get a gauge on the market and how it potentially is shifting, is that % of original list price received. So this is a number I'm sure a lot of you track as well, especially when we're doing comps and putting CMAs together. But in Gem County, we are seeing that homes are selling at or just above list price now this year compared to last year the same time. So I kind of put those next to it for you and broke it down by price range, because I also think that's really important to be aware of. We aren't seeing that, on average at least, in properties over $750,000. So, and even under $250,000 or less, and I think that's probably has to do with some, repairs and negotiations and things, just based on some of the properties that I had kind of looked at when I was looking at things in that that kind of showed up in there. But that's important as well, right? When you're doing your comps and your CMAs, and especially talking to sellers right now, is we're hearing like, oh, I can just get 50 and 100 and $1 million over my list price. Let's do it, right? Having some of this information, hopefully this helps when it comes from the association and not maybe from comps that you pulled and they're like, yeah, but that's not my situation, right? But to just be mindful of sort of what's going on. But it is accelerating, right? Buyers are having to compete on price much more than they have in the past. And so being mindful of kind of where those things are going. But we are starting to see that back off a little bit, at least in Ada County, a little bit in Elmore based on some research I did, in Canyon County, and whether that's just, buyers' unwillingness to continue doing that or just their ability. There's a certain point when someone's like, I'm not gonna pay that much more over, whether they're doing cash or mortgage, right? So hopefully this is some helpful information for you to look at as well. And some other metrics, again, these will be in the presentation if you want to download the PDF, but just so you can sort of take a look and see some of those other indicators that we're watching, and hopefully that's helpful for you as well. But obviously mortgage rates, we're all well aware of where those are sitting. And what's been really nice is that those low levels of mortgage rates has really allowed people to continue to purchase as prices have risen. However, prices are starting to rise faster than those rates can offset prices, at least locally, right? So the last couple of years, we've been able to say it's actually cheaper to buy a home right now based on if we just look at the monthly mortgage rate, especially when we compare to 2006. But again, with those increases that we're seeing recently, we're starting to see that sort of edge out a little bit. And so this is looking at sort of that gain in price for Gem County, even with the continued reduction in that mortgage interest rate. We're seeing that kind of price flip. If we're just looking straight at like the median price, 20% down, all of that kind of stuff, right? So certainly this will be different for every one of your clients, but just as a rule of thumb, when we sort of look at this, we can sort of see also where there's a lot of pressure being put back in the rental market for people that were maybe thinking, oh, I can kind of get out of renting and move to existing. We're gonna maybe see that back off just a little bit, but I don't think enough where it's gonna suddenly be like, oh, we've got all these homes available, right? But there's been some concern with people paying at these higher prices and taking on more mortgage debt of, are we going to run into foreclosures again in a distressed market like we had previously with people, buying homes at these higher prices? Especially when we went through the initial stages of COVID-19 and we saw all of these people get laid off and those forbearance programs start to kick in. I think that was actually a really, really great solution that we did not have before. Back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, whenever it was, right, whenever that started hitting, right, that's when I was selling real estate, by the way. So all of my transactions were short sales and foreclosures and all of that. But instantly people were being put into foreclosure filings, right? Where this time around, people who did find themselves in a financial hardship had that cushion of a forbearance program. So it wasn't instantly this like time clock of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my home. So it's much different than what we experienced previously when we had the recession. And I don't know if you heard, apparently the recession's over. It was only 2 months, like a year ago, so we're good now, I guess. But I kind of joke, and I'll talk a little more about that in a minute. But what they're seeing, at least on the national level, is people who did go into forbearance came out pretty quickly as they, got employment back settled. And those that are still in a forbearance plan, those come down quite a bit or do have a plan in place. So the idea of all of these distressed properties coming on the market, we hopefully will not see that, and hopefully that was really mitigated by having that in place. And even looking at foreclosure filings through June, Adam Research is a group that really looks at the foreclosure market. They're saying it's at the lowest level, I think it was like in 6 years or something like that, all-time low. And just in Idaho, we were one of the lowest, and there was only 113 filings across the state as of June. So that's a really good market because, again, let's remember where we were. We don't want to be back at the left side of this chart, right? Where in Gem County in particular, in 2010, nearly 70% of the existing homes that sold were in some way distressed. So we don't want to go back to that. And oftentimes we'll hear, and we'll get calls from reporters sometimes being like, oh, well, my friend bought a house in 2010 or 2011, and like, he just said the prices were so great, and like, how come prices are so high again? And we have to remind them, like, you are not comparing apples to apples. You're comparing a market that was extremely unhealthy, distressed, and really, really tough for a lot of people. So good on them for getting it at that time if they could buy a home, but that is certainly not a place we want to go back to. So we do try to make that comparison for people when we can. And in Gem County, you did see a little bit of an uptick, but it was one property. So when we look at some of the percent changes, always be really careful with that, especially when we're dealing with a smaller count of properties. So it was, up 1 compared to or 2 this year versus 1 last year at this time. So anyways, keep that in mind. But so we're in a good position, at least, if I can say that, from the distress side of things. And the other thing that's really helping from kind of people being super concerned about what we may come out of, and again, who knows where things are going to go, but average gain in homeowner equity. Idaho was the #1 state from this year compared to last year with an average gain of $71,000. So the other idea is that if we do find people in a situation where they do have to sell because of a financial hardship, we should be able to avoid a lot of the short sales, right? Because we've got equity in these properties and there's a ton of demand. So hopefully we can absorb any of that potential distressed property coming out. And so we'll kind of watch this as well. But I think the other thing that's obviously driving the increase in equity is more cash sales, right? It's not up tremendously. I think Gem County was still, I have the number in the presentation, still around 20-some%, and it's been pretty consistent. But we know a lot of that is from in-migration, from lots of different areas, although your top 2 counties for in-migration are Ada and Canyon County, so there you go. That's where most of the people are moving in from. But interestingly, and this data is a little bit dated, it's the most current we can get based on county-to-county stuff, but 50% of all moves that happened during this time were within the county, right? So it's always really important for us as real estate professionals to understand and be really aware of. Absolutely, immigration has an impact on our market, but we all obviously still have a lot of in-state and in-county movement going on. But you can still kind of take a look at where most people were coming from. And I think this was another chart, I mentioned the airport previously, but this was another chart that just came out last week that apparently Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming are the 3 states that have the highest passenger gain since June 2019, before the pandemic. And so this guy here, his name's Mike Simonson. He's the president of REALTORS Research. He's kind of saying that, it's all these people that moved out of the coast and they got to Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming are like, I got to go back to work in California and New York and all of these places, and now they're like flying back. And I think that could be a little bit part of it. But we also have to remember we've had a lot of growth, a lot more flights come into our markets than we've had before. So there's just a lot more potential for our numbers to grow. But I just thought that was kind of an interesting insight, and just since we were called out there. One thing that we would like to try to do, though, to get you guys more real-time information on who's moving in and out of our communities and why, is we've launched a new survey that goes out once a month, and it's essentially asking you, where did your clients move from, where are your sellers moving to, why, and it's just some really high-level things without getting into any, identifying information. But we want to get that information back out to you all so you have better real-time business intelligence on, what's going on in our market right now. So if you see this email from us on a monthly basis, please fill it out. These are just preliminary details. They're not ready yet. Because we don't have enough people that have participated. But it's another piece of information we're hoping to bring to you all to have this kind of in your toolbox when you're doing your own business planning, but also some of the work and conversations you're having with clients. And obviously, this is a whole separate section, but we've been talking about it all along, is just sort of how sort of the pandemic nationally has impacted the market as well, or the housing market. And I thought this was a really nice summary it's the chief economist for Redfin, is just really looking at how sort of we moved through things starting back in February and March, all the way to today, to really understand, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We were not aware if we could continue selling homes, or if people would even be moving, or what would actually be happening, if you kind of remember back last year. And obviously, the complete opposite of what I think a lot of people expected to happen took place. But she did a nice job summarizing of how sort of this big, huge peak in demand really hit the real estate market, both in purchase and rental, and kind of where she thinks we sit right now. And, just kind of speaking of where we were last year, we just peppered you guys with tons of emails and information and Facebook Lives and all this kind of stuff because there was so much uncertainty. And, I just want to kind of remind you guys that's really what our role is. Hopefully we will never go through something like that again, but our goal is to kind of bring you those resources and information, especially when there's so much uncertainty, in as much real time as we can. So anything that you need, if you still have clients that have questions or sort of like looking for resources around, how to kind of make decisions at this time, hopefully we can provide you some of that information. Because what I also think is interesting, reflecting on the slides we shared last year, is, economists back then were debating, are we going to have what they call the V-shaped recovery, a W-shaped recovery? Well, we had neither, right? So that's why you don't listen to like forecasts and economists, because who knows what's actually going to happen until it does. Because what we actually experienced is a K-shaped recovery. So you guys may have heard that term on some things. But what it's talking about is just this unexpected outcome that nobody really thought was going to happen, where we had some sectors and some people in different industries actually do really well coming out of this, right? So people that didn't have layoffs could continue working, were able to work from home, have saved a lot of money because they couldn't do anything for the past year or whatever, right? Those are the people that are buying homes and moving and making a lot of those transactions happen right now. But we're also seeing a lot of people in industries that were really struggling, and those who had sort of personal circumstances kind of leading up to that, continuing to need that financial assistance and support. So if you kind of know of anybody that needs those resources, you guys are well aware of what's out there, but I just wanted to kind of plug this again and give you those links, because we've been in conversations with IHFA in particular to sort of say, hey, we know you have funding for people, whether it's to help them with mortgage payments, rental payments, if it's kind of those COVID-related factors or other things, and how do we get that information out to our members? Because what we don't want to have happen is, especially for our landlord community, right, where they have renters who can't pay, haven't been paying, how do we get them to get those resources to keep our landlords in particular in a good position, as well as our homeowners? So if you know of anybody, make sure you're sharing some of this information. And I think one of the biggest things we can do right now, sort of thinking back to that slide I shared about all this equity everybody has right now, right? How do we help our clients protect that? If they're truly not looking to make a move, if they're truly not looking to need to do anything with it, we all know the people that kind of pulled everything out before, and then we're like, kind of got stuck, right? We don't know where the market's going to go. We certainly, like I said, don't foresee a big, crash or anything like that coming. But what can we do to be talking to consumers right now about holding on to that equity and preserving it if they truly do not need it, so they're in a good position regardless of where things go? Or those that do have to use it, make sure they're working with their accountant, their CPA, their financial advisors, their lenders, to really make sure they're making the right decisions with that equity, because it is a great time for those people to be able to use that stuff if they can afford to do so. This next slide is insane, but the reason I have it like this is so that I would really like you to download it. I couldn't figure out another way to kind of get this all to you, but again, thinking of all of the different questions and calls and emails and resources that we were asked for last year, I tried to just summarize it into a bunch of different talking points about ways to serve your clients. because I think we're still in that process of we don't quite know how everything's going to shake out, but I think we're in a good position going forward, and hopefully some of these things can sort of help you navigate some of the changes and some of the new practices that have popped up in our market, and as you're advising clients on what to do, because even though I gave you my caveat on inventory numbers and why they look the way they do, as long as we still have that insufficient supply of homes compared to demand, we're going to continue to see prices being pushed up. So making sure you have those conversations and tools with clients, and I know all of you do, but anything we can do to help you in that, please let us know. Because for us, we will talk about more supply, bringing homes on the market. And yes, that's new construction, but it's also kind of releasing and bringing some of that existing inventory back on the market if we can. We are committed to that. So all of the questions, that Jeff had kind of asked for, and the resources that we're getting from city and county planners, that's the stuff that we need to know about, because this is going to be essential for us. And we know we can't just throw homes up everywhere, because it's going to have impact on septic. And in Mountain Home, we heard a lot about the water and all of these big issues. But we also know we need it, because growth is not just stopping. So how can we make sure that we're those voices at the table? So I want to make sure all of you are on this new planning and zoning thing that they just talked about. So we need all of you guys on something like that, right? And we're happy to provide those resources. We've got lots of different things. That public policy document was shared with you guys today, but all kinds of different resources that we are happy to provide to you guys if you're going out and speaking in the community. But also, if you have consumers, your property owners that want to get involved, the National Association of Realtors has two really great resources. The Homeownership Matters program and their new Property Owners Alliance. I think it's an association, or I'm not quite sure how it's set up. Really cool resources for those people and just in the general public that want to be a part of having these discussions. And we'll just continue to give you updates, not maybe this detailed every month, but we'll try to get you some of that, the high level information on a monthly basis through our reports. And again, anytime you have a question or need something from us, just please let me know. So I think with that, I'm done. Oh yeah, how are we doing on time? I wasn't watching.
She's like, I'm done. See you.
Yep, see ya. Bye.
Any questions for Brianna?
What do you got? Yeah? Yeah.
So can you see Breanna in her glory? She loves numbers. She loves this. I want to thank you for
thank
what you give back to our group here and to our association. You're phenomenal.
I like these questions. Thank you, Tina. Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you, Tina. And I do appreciate it. And honestly, if there's ever anything we can dig into for you guys, please let us know. We like looking at this stuff. So please reach out and let us know. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brianna. We really appreciate you. And yes, Tina, I echo your sentiment there. We are very lucky to be having Brianna as our CEO every single year. Yeah, she loves to geek out on stuff, and I love that she loves that, because it makes being president of the association so much more fun, because she gets to take care of all the fun stuff that she loves, and I like to connect with you guys. Having said all that, I just want to take a second. Becky Enrico, our president-elect, was here today, so thank you, Becky, also for coming out. We appreciate that. So if you enjoyed the summit this year, wait till next year. It's going to be awesome. All the information today from the presenters, slides, PowerPoints will all be available on boirealtors.com, which is where you'll find many, many other resources that Breanna was kind of describing that we have for you guys to use, and please use those. Again, a special thank you to Lori, Michelle, and Neal, as well as Breanna, for taking the time to be here today and for speaking to you guys. We hope you guys were able to pick up on a couple things you can take back into your businesses and implement them right away, if nothing more than just some talking points to have your clients be better connected and educated around what's happening with projections of growth in Elmore County. Also, again, thank you to our sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to put on as amazing a venue and opportunity that we have with you guys today. And then again, kind of we talked about this, like I said, with Tina, kind of just giving those minutes of those meetings, like that kind of stuff is important. So we really encourage you guys to be engaged with your planning and zoning, your city council meetings, to attend those. Your elected officials want to hear from you. They need to hear from you. And maybe more importantly, when they don't want to hear from you, they definitely need to hear from you then. So let them know what's going on, because again, as an association, we don't know, and as a lot of times elected officials, although they're within your communities, sometimes they don't know exactly what's happening within the decisions they're going to be making and how that's going to impact your business and also private property rights. So make sure to speak up. It's vitally, vitally important. Again, thank you guys for taking the time to be here today. Just a quick update. Coming out will be a survey, and as I should just read it. I'm trying to summarize it. So a replay of the presentation will be sent to you next week along with a survey asking for your feedback. That's what I was trying to say. So watch for that. That feedback is really important. So if you see that email, please take the opportunity to do that. Again, I want to make sure that Mrs. Becky Enrico Crum will be ready to take the reins and kill it next year with as much feedback as possible so we can just continue to improve everything we do for you guys. Thank you again. And then also, for those who are staying, the 2021 Commission Core Course is going to begin at 12:30 today, and we still have spots available, and that's free for all BRR members. And I believe that Elizabeth, she's doing that again? Elizabeth Hume will be teaching that course at 12:30. And with that, we'll let you guys go. Oh, Tina.
We have an announcement?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, come on up.
First of all, we do really want to thank all of you guys for coming and spending your time and giving us the great information and tools that we need.
Yeah,
to
thank
raise-
you.
Also, I want to really thank our little REBA board of directors, and I would like to announce each and every one because they have really put in the time to do an outstanding job. Tina Turner, if you don't mind standing up. Oh, Tina. Is Lucinda and Josh. Matt Heath is not here. And Brenda, there we go there. And Sharon. Tom Helzer. Susie Jewell. And myself. I think we're very, very lucky to have the little group that we have. It's amazing, the participation. And we really do thank you guys for all of your time. Okay? And then John, I'm sorry, one more.
Oh, one more.
I apologize.
No.
John Evans, if you don't mind going over the, oh, he does, this is his favorite part.
Yeah, again, we have BRRs already signed up, but we do have our Realtors Golf Tournament, which is a fundraiser this year again. All the benefits go to PALS and Emmett Valley Friendship Coalition. It's on the 14th of August. I've got some sign-ups and also donation stuff for sponsors, and then we're also going to do silent auction, so I'm going to be asking you guys for stuff for that too. So, but it all goes for a good cause. I have these I'm going to pass out. Didn't have to be on this one, but camera, hi. Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements?
That's it.
Okay, I'll hold you to it. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.